My carrot hash is colorful and crispy on the edges, and I'm using the carrot tops to make a fresh pesto to drizzle all over. I'm gonna chop up a potato, and I'm gonna shred it right into my food processor. And for my carrots, I'll just chop off the tops, but I'm gonna keep the tops for my pesto. And I'll just add these to the food processor as well. Let me get a spatula. Okay, and now we'll dump these into my strainer and it's set over a bowl. Next, I'm gonna add the white parts of 3 scallions. And now some kosher salt will help draw the moisture out. And then I'll use my hands to just kind of like press the moisture out. Now I'll discard the liquid and add my vegetables into the bowl. To this mixture, I'm gonna add a cup of panko breadcrumbs, and then a 1/4 cup of raisins. Now I'll add 2 eggs, which will bind this all together, a tablespoon of brown sugar, and then 3 tablespoons of harissa paste. Harissa is a smoky pepper paste that goes so well with carrots. And next I'll add a 1/2 teaspoon of sumac. That'll add nice acidic punchiness. And then 1/2 teaspoon of cumin, a 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and a few good turns of pepper. I'm just gonna mix this all together. And now I'm just gonna evenly distribute it into my cute little drop biscuit pan. I'm gonna brush it with some olive oil. And now I'm gonna distribute my mixture amongst all the cups here. And I'm using a measuring cup so they're all even. And now I'll use a spoon to press it up around the edges, and I'm gonna create little wells for my eggs. I'll let this bake at 400 degrees for 25 minutes until it's golden and crispy around the edges, and then I'll add my eggs. Okay, these smell so good. I'm smelling the cumin. They're crispy around the edges, and now they just need their eggs. Now these are gonna go back into the oven for 5 to 7 minutes until the whites are firm but the yolks are still runny. I've got a few minutes left on my eggs and hash in the oven, so I'll get going on my pesto. Carrot tops are a great underrated ingredient. So to get started, I'm gonna roughly chop these to stick in my food processor. And now the scallion greens that are left over from my hash, I'm gonna also chop up and add to my processor. I'll also add a clove of garlic, and then 1/3 cup of sunflower seeds. And they're gonna add just a perfect amount of texture to this. And now a good splash of white wine vinegar, and a few big pinches of kosher salt and black pepper. Okay, and now I'm gonna blend this up into a puree. This looks great, everything is chopped up. And now I'm gonna continue to blend as I drizzle in 1.5 cups of olive oil and water. Oh, it smells so good. All right, I'm gonna check on my eggs now. Jackpot. These eggs are perfect. The egg whites are cooked and the yolks are still a little jiggly. So to finish these off, I'll just drizzle them with my pesto. Now for the last thing, I just have to have a little sprinkle of salt and pepper on all of my eggs. These are so beautiful. And bonus, it was no waste. I used all the parts of the carrot. I have a unique spin on tabbouleh salad that is vibrant, crisp, and fresh. I'm gonna start by ricing some cauliflower. And tabbouleh salad is typically made with bulgur wheat, but instead of that, I'm using this cauliflower rice. And this was a thing I started doing one year on Passover because you can't have wheat on Passover. And it was so good. The cauliflower just kind of soaks up all the flavors of the vegetables and the herbs that typically go in tabbouleh. And it makes me feel better about eating the whole bowl because cauliflower is good for you. All right, now you can buy cauliflower riced already, or you can save money and rice it yourself easily with a box grater. And you get what looks like rice. I've got my cauliflower rice, and now I'm gonna quickly saute it in some olive oil. Cauliflower rice is also really good as fried rice. Now I'm just gonna cook this for a few minutes, and while this cooks, I'll gather the rest of my vegetables. I've got a few radishes, some scallions, and Persian cucumbers here that I'll chop up. And I love these little Persian cucumbers. They're crisper and sweeter than the big guys. And they're gonna add such nice crispness and a little bit of sweetness to this salad. I think it's about ready to remove from the heat. Okay. Now I'll continue chopping up the rest of my vegetables. I've got 6 scallions here that I'm gonna slice thinly. I'm just dumping all my ingredients into my salad bowl. And now a few radishes will add a nice peppery kick. I'm gonna add half of a red onion. And now I'm gonna add tons of herbs. Tabbouleh has to have a lot of fresh herbs. I've got cilantro, parsley, and mint in here. I'll just pile these right in. And now I'm gonna add a little bit of heat with some crushed red pepper. And I'll season with salt and pepper. And now this salad doesn't really have a dressing. I'm just gonna add tons of lemon juice and olive oil. And this is gonna add so much nice brightness. So I'm adding the juice of 1 lemon, and then I'm gonna eyeball about a 1/4 cup of olive oil. Doesn't need to be exact. Now I'll toss it all together. Oh, it's so fun to see all of these colors blend together, get really pretty. Okay, let me sneak a taste. I just love the way the lemon and the olive oil coat all the vegetables and really makes their flavor shine. This is gonna be the perfect side dish to my falafel. I am making my crispy rice salad with kale, which is spicy and fresh. I make my dressing and then fry up some rice and toss it all together with kale. To get started on my dressing, I'm gonna chop up a Thai bird chili. These guys are really little, but they pack a good amount of heat. And then I'll also use a zester to grate in 4 cloves of garlic. And then I'll also grate in a teaspoon of fresh ginger. All right, I've got my garlic, ginger, and Thai chili in my bowl. And I also have some oil heating up that I'm gonna use to fry the rice, but I'm gonna steal 2 tablespoons of it so that the garlic and the ginger can kind of cook and become really fragrant. Oh yeah, I'll also get 2 tablespoons of sugar. And then 2 tablespoons of fish sauce, which has so much flavor. It's made with fermented salted anchovies. And my gosh, I just love this stuff. And then for acidity, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of lime juice. I'll whisk this all together. And that's it for my dressing. I'll just set this aside and let these flavors meld while I fry up some peanuts, which will add a great crunch and nuttiness to the salad. And I'm gonna put them into my spider first, which will help me gently lower them into the oil. All right. I've got 1.5 inches of neutral oil here, heating to 350 degrees, and then I'll fry them until they're golden. It'll just take a minute or 2. These are smelling nice and toasty, and they're getting some good brown color. And I'm actually gonna transfer them directly into my dressing so that they can soak up some of that good flavor. Okay, I'll set this aside and grab my rice and veggies. I've got my kale and a shallot and some leftover rice, which is best for frying because it's dried out a little bit. I'll gently add this to my oil. Okay, this will fry at 350 for about 5 minutes. And in that time, I'll chop up my veggies. I've got some dinosaur kale here, which I just love for its dark, rich color. And I'll just take it off of the stems. Okay, I'm gonna gather this up and then I'll thinly slice it. I'll add some sliced shallot rings on top and some freshly chopped cilantro. Let me check on my rice. Yes, that's some great color and I can feel how crispy it is. I'll transfer it to a paper towel to drain. I'll just break it up into pieces right into my bowl. And I like some of the bigger pieces too, so I don't want to break it up too much. I'll add in my peanuts. The smells that are happening right now are just beyond. And then I'll toss this up. Oh yeah, get everything coated in that delicious dressing. And as the kale coats in the dressing, that saltiness will help break it down. The kale's looking really nice and glossy. Okay, let me give it a taste, make sure that I have enough dressing on there. And also, I really just can't handle this smell without eating it. toasted coconut and lime tres leches cake, which is sweet and milky and has kind of a pudding-like texture. Tres leches cake is one of my favorite Mexican desserts. The first time I made it, I could not stop eating it. To get started, I'm toasting my coconut, and it's making it smell so good in here. It can burn quite quickly, so now that it's brown, I'm gonna get it off the heat. And now I'm gonna mix up my dry ingredients. I'll add 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon will give it really nice warmth. And I'll whisk to combine. I'll set my dry mixture aside and separate 6 large eggs, taking care not to get any yolk into the egg white mixture, because even the tiniest speck of yolk can prevent the egg whites from beating up. I've got all my egg whites in the bowl. I'll beat them until they're foamy. Now that they're foamy, I'm gonna add 1/4 cup of sugar. And this sugar will help them stabilize as they continue to beat up. The egg whites are fluffy and they're holding their peaks. That's exactly what I want. This is gonna help the cake be extra airy. I'll transfer the egg whites back into their bowl. And now I'll add my yolks, which will add great richness. And I'll add 3/4 of a cup of sugar and beat these together until they're pale and fluffy. I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. The vanilla complements all the other flavors in the cake. I'll add the zest of a lime. Lime and coconut together are a total party. I'll add 1/2 cup of whole milk, and 1 cup of my toasted coconut will add next level toastiness and nuttiness. And then I can add my dry ingredients and mix until it's just combined. I don't wanna overmix it. And now I wanna incorporate my egg whites, but I don't wanna deflate all of the air that I just beat into them. So I wanna gently fold them into the yolk mixture. Batter's looking good, smelling the cinnamon. Let me grab my baking pan. I've got this super cute pan that's been greased. And the sides are pretty deep because there has to be room for the tres leches mixture. So I'll pour in my batter. I'll stick this in the oven at 350 degrees for about 18 to 20 minutes until a toothpick stuck into the center comes out clean. I can smell that coconut. It is golden brown and beautiful. I'm gonna let this cool now while I put together my tres leches mixture. So these are my 3 milks because tres leches means 3 milks in Spanish, and they're gonna make the texture of the cake so creamy and dreamy. I'll start with 1/2 cup of whole milk, a can of sweetened condensed milk, which is sticky and sweet and slightly caramelized, and lastly, some evaporated milk, which is just milk that has some water taken out of it, so it's more intensely milky. All right, let me whisk this up. Now, before I pour this onto the cake, I wanna poke some holes in it to allow some space for the milk to go. I wanna make a lot of holes so that the milk can soak into every part of the cake. I'm ready for the tres leches. I'll pour this all over and let it soak away. I'll let this sit for a few hours in the fridge, or you can go overnight. Soak well, my friend. My cake has soaked up all the milky goodness, and now I'm ready to decorate. I'll coat the top in lightly sweetened whipped cream, some toasted coconut for texture, a little lime zest, and lastly, a few well-placed taco sprinkles. I can't believe these are sprinkles. Yay! This tres leche looks to die for. I'm putting together a home run dish, my zucchini pizza with basil mint pesto. I do my prep inside and then amp up the flavor by taking it outside and cooking it on the grill to get a nice charred crust. It's chewy and cheesy, everything a good pie should be. To get started, I'm slicing my zucchini. I'll toss these in a little olive oil, and the olive oil will help them develop a nice golden brown char. I'll toss this to get it evenly coated. Now that my zucchini is prepped, I'll make my basil mint pesto. Pesto is such a great way to liven up any pizza. I'm gonna chop off the stems. And pesto is so easy, you just throw everything in the food processor and let it do the hard work. 1/2 cup of shredded Parmesan, 1/2 cup of toasted pine nuts, which add that delicious, rich butteriness. A couple of good pinches of crushed red pepper for some heat. 4 cloves of garlic, and then the juice of 1/2 lemon. This is the perfect hit of acid that the buttery pine nuts need. Season with salt and pepper. And then pulse this until it's crumbly. And now that it's mostly broken up, I'll drizzle in half a cup of olive oil as I continue to blend. This is so good. I love pesto smell. It's so fresh and nutty, and I can smell the Parmesan too. I'm gonna taste it to make sure all the seasoning is correct. It is so flavorful, and there's just enough Parmesan in that. This would rival any red sauce. Okay, I'm ready to put my pizzas together. I've got my pizza dough here, just using my go-to no-knead recipe. You just combine all-purpose flour, yeast, salt, and water, and then stir to form a dough, cover, and let it rise overnight. I've divided it into 2 balls, and I've got them on parchment rounds. I've dusted them with a little flour so they don't stick, and I'm gonna flatten them into 10 to 11-inch circles. This looks great. It is the size that I want. I like a slightly thicker crust. I'm ready to add my toppings. I'll start with a layer of pesto. I'm gonna add a thin layer now and then finish it after it's done cooking with another little drizzle. I'm ready for my mozzarella. Fresh mozzarella is the best. I'll tear this up and scatter it all over the pesto. This is one pretty pizza, and now I'll build another. These pizzas are gonna be too good, but not too good to eat. Okay, it's time to grill. Okay, so first we've gotta grill the zucchini and get some nice char marks on it. It's oiled and ready to go. I'm gonna put it on right here. I'm just grilling the zucchini for about a minute on each side, just to get those nice char marks. I'm also gonna grill the lemon because that's gonna caramelize it and make it taste a little funky and really good. Okay, the zucchini is ready to flip. I can see some of the brown marks around the edges. Okay, now that the zucchini is nicely charred, I'm gonna salt it. Do you think you can handle helping me out grilling the pizzas?
I never thought you'd ask.
The pizza stone has been preheating and it's ready to go. Just slide it on. Okay, I'm gonna put some of the zucchini on. We don't want them to overlap. Just a single layer of zucchini, kind of an abstract fashion. That smells so good. You smell that, pesto? Okay, we're gonna keep this closed.
Okay.
It'll cook at 500 degrees for 6 to 9 minutes until the cheese has golden splotches all over. If you're cooking it in a regular oven, same time and temp. Oh my gosh, I can smell the basil. Romaine salad with breadcrumbs and a simple dressing is the romaine adds such a nice, cool, refreshing crunch, and the breadcrumbs add great texture. So to get started, I'm gonna melt 2 tablespoons of butter in my skillet. Okay, I'm gonna add a cup of breadcrumbs, and I'm just eyeballing this. And I'm gonna season with salt and pepper. And I'm just gonna stir these around and keep on stirring for about 5 minutes until they're golden brown. Any breadcrumbs will do. I prefer using panko breadcrumbs though because they're extra crunchy. One thing I love about this salad is that there is so much crunchiness going on. The romaine is crunchy, the breadcrumbs are crunchy. It is just crunch on crunch on crunch on crunch. These are looking great. They are golden brown and toasty, and I can smell that butter. I'm gonna take them away from the heat so that they don't overcook, and I'll just transfer them to my sheet pan here so that they can cool. And now I'll get going on my dressing. I'm gonna start with a big plop of Greek yogurt. I always keep Greek yogurt on hand because it is the best base for dressings. It's super creamy and rich. And I just add whatever seasonings I feel like, stir it up with a little olive oil or water to thin it out, and you never have to buy store-bought dressing. I'm gonna add a little zing with some Dijon mustard, a couple good splashes of Worcestershire sauce, which is such a unique flavor. There's a little bit of molasses in it. I love this in dressings. And some garlic. And this just breaks it up really small so that it incorporates into the dressing. While I have the grater in my hand, I'm going to zest a lemon right into here. I'm gonna give my lemon a squeeze to release the juices. And then I'll chop it in half, and I'm gonna add the juice of half a lemon. Now I'm gonna thin it out with a little bit of water, and then I'll season with salt and pepper. And this dressing packs the flavor between the lemon zest and the zingy mustard and the Worcestershire sauce, which has a really unique flavor. It's gonna be really good. And I'm mixing to combine until it's smooth and creamy. Romaine is awesome. It's like the blue jeans of leafy greens because everything goes with it. This salad could not be easier. I'll just break it up into bite-sized pieces. I love how crisp this is. All right, now I'm gonna shave on some parm. And I like a lot of parm, so I'm going for about 3/4 of a cup. All right, my breadcrumbs have cooled, and I'm gonna end most of them. I'm gonna save some for the top of my salad. And now I'm just gonna dress. And I'll use my tongs to toss it and get all of the romaine evenly coated in the dressing and the breadcrumbs. This one fell off, so I get to taste it. It's very bright, crunchy, delicious. To finish, I'll top it with more parm. And then the rest of my breadcrumbs. Homemade pasta is the best thing in the world, and it's actually not that hard to make. I like adding fresh herbs to my pasta dough because it makes it green and speckly and really pretty. So I'm adding some parsley here. So I'm gonna chop up about a cup of this. And I want this parsley to be very fine. It's gonna be like confetti sprinkled throughout my dough. Okay, now I'm gonna sift 2 cups of all-purpose flour directly onto my board. And I'm sifting this to get any clumps out of the flour so that I can have an extra smooth dough. This is a necessary step. Okay, next I'm gonna grab 2 cups of semolina flour. Semolina flour is a coarse flour that's really important when you're making pasta. It helps the noodles hold their shape. I'm gonna make a well in my mountain of flour. All right, 4 whole eggs are going to go into my well. Eggs give it a nice rich yellow color. And I'm also gonna add 2 egg yolks for added richness. 4 tablespoons of olive oil, and this is gonna add a nice suppleness to the dough and also this great olive oil flavor. A teaspoon of kosher salt, and a bunch of black pepper. I'm gonna scramble these eggs a little bit, being careful not to overflow the well. Now I'm ready to add my parsley. I'm gonna gradually incorporate my flour so it doesn't get too clumpy. If you don't end up incorporating all the flour, that's okay, as long as your dough comes together like this. It's time for it to rest now. I'm gonna divide it in half. I'm gonna let this sit for 30 minutes and then I'm gonna turn it into pasta. Okay, I'm gonna dust my board with a little bit of all-purpose flour so that it doesn't stick. And for this step, you really don't need a machine. You can roll it out by hand. It'll take some time and it'll take some arm muscle, but it's all worth it. So I'm aiming for about a 1/16 of an inch or thinner. And now I'm ready to cut my noodles. So to do that, I'm gonna dust the top with some semolina flour so that the noodles don't stick together. So pretty. And now I'm gonna fold it in half again to make it easier to cut. So I'm forming these into little nests just to make sure that they don't stick together, and these nests will make it easier for me to cook this in batches. I have some heavily salted water that's boiling in my pot, and I'll drop this in. I'm just going for about 3 minutes until the pasta is tender but has a little bit of a bite still. Okay, I've gotta try a noodle. There is nothing better than fresh pasta. I'm not making a heavy sauce, I'm just adding some beautiful bright flavors to this. I've got a bunch of olive oil heating in a pot with some garlic. So in other words, it smells amazing in here. And next I'm gonna add some pine nuts. While these fry, I'm gonna chop up some preserved lemons. Preserved lemons are one of my favorite ingredients. They're lemons that have been preserved with salt, so it is important to rinse them. They have a really nice briny, pickly flavor, and I love them for their depth of flavor. They're an essential part of Moroccan cooking, but if you don't have time to make them or you can't find them at the store, just add some lemon zest to your sauce. The pine nuts are starting to get some color, and I'm smelling their butteriness, and that matched with the lemon is amazing. I'm also gonna chop up some fresh mint, and I'm gonna add half of it to the pot, and I'm gonna reserve the other half for later. I'll just dump it right into the pot. Now I've reserved some of the pasta cooking water, which has valuable starch in there, and that's gonna help the sauce come together and get silky. Okay, I'm also gonna add a little bit of crushed red pepper, just a little bit of heat, not too overpowering, and lots of black pepper. And now this needs feta. Feta is gonna maintain the brightness that we've set up with the preserved lemon and the mint. I love feta. Okay, and to serve, I'm gonna sprinkle it with the last of my fresh mint. This is so beautiful. A Smorgastarta. It's layers of fluffy bread with egg salad and salmon salad between them, covered in cream cheese and colorful decor. I could not be more obsessed with this concept. I'm starting by making the cream cheese frosting, which isn't your typical sweetened cream cheese frosting. I've got 1.5 pounds of softened cream cheese, and then I'll just loosen it up with half a cup of heavy cream. A couple of pinches of salt, and I'll blend it up until it's smooth. That's it for the frosting. So a majority of it is going to be slathered all over the outside of my gigantic sandwich, but a little bit of it is going to be used to hold together my salmon salad. So I'll just scoop this out into a bowl. I've been waiting my entire life to do this. Now I'll make the salmon salad. It's tangy and smoky, and it's got a nice bit of heat from some horseradish. And the second filling is egg salad. It's got mayo. Need I say more? I'll start by flaking some smoked salmon into my cream cheese mixture. This is hot smoked salmon, so it flakes really easily, as opposed to cold smoked salmon, which is more like something you'd put on a bagel. A 1/4 cup of sour cream will help lighten up the cream cheese mixture. The zest and juice of half a lemon, always lemon with smoked salmon. Some chopped dill. Smoked salmon is so delicious on its own, but when you pair it with dill and lemon, it becomes truly one of the most delicious foods on the planet. Some salt and pepper, and then a plop of horseradish adds some great heat. Really brings this salad to life. I'll mix this up. For my second filling, I'll make a basic, straightforward egg salad. I like mine to be heavy on the mayo. And to chop up all of my hard-boiled eggs here, I've got this fun trick using a wire cooling rack. Put it over my bowl and just smash the eggs right on through. Wow, this is very soothing. I'll season these with salt and pepper, and then hold it all together with mayonnaise, my favorite thing in the world. A small plop of Dijon brings in the zingy personality that an otherwise mild dish requires. I'll add some freshly chopped chives and parsley. Herbs are the savory sprinkle of this cake. I'll stir this around. I'm ready to assemble. I've got my bread here and a 9x9 pan that I've lined with plastic wrap, which will help me remove the cake after it's set, and it'll also help me wrap it up because I will have to set it in the refrigerator. For my first layer, I'll do a layer of Pullman white bread. I'll nestle them close together and then pile on the egg salad. I'll spread this out evenly. So happy. Now another layer of bread, and then the salmon salad. It's the perfect shade of pink. Spread this to the edge, and then finish with another layer of bread. Just like that. I'll wrap this in plastic wrap tightly so that it doesn't dry out. I'll let this set in the fridge for 2 hours until firm, and then I'll be ready to decorate. I just unleashed every dream and desire I've ever had in my life on this cake. Trim the edges, ice the whole thing with my remaining cream cheese frosting, add ham star cutouts, and then a lovely arrangement of fresh herbs, sliced cucumbers, radishes, lemons, and eggs, of course, to peep what's inside. I'm making my Drunken cucumber noodles, which are a vegetable-centric version of the classic Thai dish that's dark and caramelly and loaded with fresh crunch. To get started, I'm spiralizing a cucumber. I'm turning it into noodles. And you can get one of these contraptions online, or you can slice a cucumber into thin coins. Look at this big old pile of noodles. I'll get these into my bowl, and into my pan, I'll add a drizzle of oil, and I'll add my onions and pepper. I have one chopped onion here, and a chopped orange pepper. I'll stir these around and let them cook until the onions are translucent. It's already starting to smell good. Next, I'll add my garlic. I'll add a ½ pound of ground chicken right to the pan, and then I'll cook it, breaking it up with a spoon so that it can be bite-sized pieces and get browned all over. While this continues to cook, I'll make my Drunken sauce. This sauce is sweet and a little funky, and it has a slight touch of heat. It has it all. Start with 2 tablespoons of soy sauce and whisk it with a ½ teaspoon of cornstarch to thicken it up. 2 tablespoons of hoisin sauce and a tablespoon of fish sauce for a savory touch. A tablespoon of chili paste for a little heat, and 1½ teaspoons of sesame oil. I'll whisk this together, and I can hear my pan singing over there. I'm gonna dump this right in. I'll stir this all together to coat the chicken and the veggies. And I'll grab my tomatoes and scallion. These tomatoes will add their signature burstiness, and then I'll slice up my scallion. And I'll add this as well. This dish has a lot of personality, just like my dad, and it really comes out when he performs. This is looking great. I'm gonna add it to my cucumber noodles. I'll toss this all together. Oh yeah, look at all these bright colors. It's so vibrant. Let me grab my serving bowl and a lime, and I'll put it all together. I'll finish this with some lime juice and fresh basil. The lime will add great brightness. And some fresh basil, which will be really tasty. And that's it. Let me taste. So flavorful with a nice crunch from the cucumbers. This is gonna be the perfect contrast to the buns.
Oh, there's a long one. Look at that. Long noodles, long life.
Uh-oh.
Oh my gosh.
Man, you're gonna live
a really long time.
Sometimes I feel like carrot cake is the unofficial mascot of the spring. Mine is super dense and moist, and it's loaded with flavor. I'll mix up my dry ingredients first. 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. 1½ teaspoons each of salt, baking soda, and baking powder. 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And now I'm gonna add Hawaiian, which is one of my favorite warm spice mixers to use. It's heavy on the cardamom and ginger, and it's also got cloves, nutmeg, and cinnamon. Anything you'd use pumpkin spice for, Hawaiian can fill in. Okay, now in my big bowl, I'm gonna combine 3/4 cup of granulated sugar and a cup of brown sugar to get that really nice molassesy flavor. Add 1½ cups of flavorless oil. Now I'm gonna add my eggs. Okay, now I'm gonna add my vanilla extract. I'm adding a tablespoon of it. It's gonna go really great with all of the spices in this cake. And now I'm gonna add my flour mixture. I'm gonna stir this in most of the way so that there aren't any lumps when I put my carrots in, but I don't wanna overmix it. Overmixing could yield a gummy cake. I'm adding 2 cups of shredded carrots. I just feel like toasted sesame seeds go so well with carrots, and they're gonna add a tiny bit of crunch. Delish. I have 2 8-inch baking pans that have been greased and lined on the bottom with parchment to prevent them from sticking. And I'll pour my batter right in. These are gonna bake at 350 for about 30 minutes until a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. My cakes have done baking and I've set them aside to cool. So now it's time for my favorite thing in the world, cake decorating. To start, I'm gonna make my cream cheese frosting. I've got half a cup of unsalted softened butter, 8 ounces of cream cheese that's been coming to room temperature, and I'll mix this to combine. I'll add some powdered sugar. Next, I'm gonna add half a teaspoon of my Hawaiian that I added to the cake, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, a pinch of kosher salt, and heavy cream will help fluff this frosting right up. And that's it. I'm just using my big serrated knife to trim off this topped dome part. Okay, I'm gonna grab my cake wheel, which is gonna help me decorate. And I'm gonna start with a dollop of frosting on the bottom, which will help my bottom layer stay in place. Add a thin layer of frosting right on top of my cake layer. Spread it around evenly, ensuring that the frosting goes all the way to the edges. Top it with my second layer. And I always flip it over because it'll yield less crumbs that way, and it's also flatter. And I'm gonna line this up as best as I can. And now I'll frost it all over. So I'm just going around to make sure that it's all covered up. To decorate, I'm gonna grab some rainbow carrots. And now I'm gonna create some nice long ribbons. I love the colors of rainbow carrots. And then I'm gonna roll this up into a swirl so that it looks like a little rose. I think this is the easiest, prettiest way to decorate a carrot cake. For the finishing touch, I'm gonna grab some rosemary sprigs and I'm gonna use them as leaves for the flowers. Is that a spring cake or is that a spring cake?